Hello, heathens.
Hello, heathen.
Welcome back to class with Cassie and Nicole.
Oh my God, deep dive. Let's get your snorkel gears on. I mean, your scuba tanks on.
Get everything on. You're gonna need like an astronaut suit because like today's topics, we say other topics are big, but like I had a
Well,
hard time because there was
this
like
is the biggest.
yeah. I had a hard time researching today because the way that this could have just gone in like about a million different paths is just like it really could have.
Well, especially when we're trying to encompass all of it instead of just one angle of it.
Yeah, so I'm sure you guys saw from the title, we're talking about the idea of God today.
It's something simple.
Something really simple. Um, yeah, this is a really big concept because we're not talking about just one specific culture or religion. We're talking about the
Oh,
idea of like God itself and all the different like parallels and like connections and
the expressions of him and them.
concepts and beliefs and my God, my God. There was a lot.
There was a lot.
It was a lot. It was a lot. I had to try to really focus myself because I was like getting into. I found out that there's this website that I really like. So you guys know I'm like really into the history side of things, and it's called Britannica. I had to like research this myself to see like what this is and why I continue to go back to this website and why I love the history part of it. It's literally a website that has a like worldwide team of educators and contributors to it, and it's constantly being updated, and they just have like tens of thousands of articles on different stuff like history, science. They have games and quizzes, science and tech, biography, animals, nature, all this stuff. And I've just
Yeah, it's like I think they used to back in the day have like encyclopedias, right?
They do, yeah. They also have
Yeah.
Webster on there. So I end up using this website a lot because it's literally like reading a history book, but it's in article form and it's so fascinating. And like, then I realized that this is a website that a lot of like scholars and like people that are going to college or have to write papers use and stuff. And I was like, oh, no wonder. So like, this website gave me an insane amount of different ideas about the concept of God and different religions and different debate topics, but rebuttals, all these I could have gone in 20 different ways with this one episode. I was like, my God, I don't know what to do. But that website, I feel like if you ever want to look up anything that we're talking about and look up the history of it too, it's a great website for that. Like you can get really deep into one idea and then branch off of it from there.
Hmm.
It's so good. I had to tell you guys.
Well, maybe you should put the link in the.
Oh yeah, that I will do. I will put that in the show notes because this one article literally is just titled The Idea of God. And it's a very big article. But there's a lot of different histories in there, a lot of different ideas. They have Hinduism, Buddhism, Christianity. They even have Gnostic Christianity. I want to say there was like two other ones, and they break it down, all the ideas. They had Plato in there, they had Einstein in there, and I was just like, in researching this, I didn't realize how many people have tried to conceptualize the idea of God and how many big people that we would consider, I guess, ascended masters like Buddha don't really try to conceptualize it at all. And it was
Oh yeah.
very interesting.
I mean, even like when I was listening to Know Thyself, and they'd use that example of like God is the box, and he's also the one in the box, and he's also outside of the box. So like you can't really describe it because all things, right? And I say he just because I'm probably programmed to do that and it's easier for me to talk. Like, we know that they're not gendered. It's not gendered, it's all of it.
Yeah, because like the good way to explain that I found was that there's different archetypal names that represent the same one thing. And we talk about filters a lot, you and I do. And this was a good way to describe that because there are different filters that interpret the same one thing, and these different filters serve for the uniqueness of the culture that it's in. It
Hmm.
expresses itself in different ways so that there are sufficient symbols for each culture. And even though we're all humans, we have different structures within our own lives. So the one has created the many, which is the symbols,
Hmm.
for the all.
Hmm. Absolutely.
And I found that and I was just like, oh my God, that's a great definition for what you're just talking about, how it's like these different, it's different filters, I guess.
Well, yeah, because if you think about it as being one whole being, and as it descends into different layers, which are filtered out as they go. There's only so far that this energy can go down into.
Yeah,
So even like the fact that we can't see ghosts is because they're in a different filter.
yeah.
They can't come down past those openings.
So, side note, you want to know what I did today? Shout out to Meredith. I decided to put in what my beliefs are into Chat GPT, which by the way was really hard to put into words, just to see like what religions I would align with. It's funny because I got New Age spirituality, esoteric and occult traditions, neo-paganism, Gnostic Christianity, and spiritualism. And it said that my beliefs are what did they say? Eclectic, quite eclectic, is what AI told me. And that I share common ground in areas, but there's not one that encompasses all. And I was like, okay, that was interesting to find out, like what, you know, out there aligns. But yeah, it's just so funny and talking about filters. I was like, well, there's 5 different filters that I apparently go through all in
Well,
one.
absolutely. And that's the thing is like when you're reading God or searching for God, like you can't necessarily throw out the baby with the bathwater. And that's what you have to be. We as a society get really triggered and then we're like, nope,
Hmm.
nope. And you're missing out on vital information. You're missing out that like piece that you might need that would put the whole picture together. But it's in this book that you've already were like, nope, Christianity's bad. I'm not reading that at all.
Yeah.
Judaism's bad. Can't read that either. Like so, and I get that we have hurts and wounds and stuff like that, and I get that.
Yeah.
Um, But sometimes we got to put ourselves aside so that we can really, if you really want this kind of like journey, is to research God on your own terms. Don't let anybody tell you what God is. Find it.
Yeah, and there's so much value in that because what it does is it opens you up to multiple different perspectives that you could, start seeing. Like before I actually did any of this, I couldn't see outside of Christianity, right? That's what I grew
Hmm.
up with, that's what I was programmed into, and it was hard to see anything else outside of that as something that could be real. I didn't have that open-mindedness to have conversations, and then once I got out of it, I shut down to that one. I opened up to only this one, and again, I couldn't see perspectives outside of it. And what was now being more open and not having the like, wounds from not necessarily specifically the religion, it's just what happened outside of the religion. It's
Hmm.
interesting to see parallels or these ideas or these beliefs that people really carry as true because I find it fascinating. One, because I get to look at it and
Hmm.
dissect it for myself and be like, huh. And then sometimes you find something in that where you're like, holy shit. I didn't. A
Yeah.
really good example is Nicole was listening to some guy, we all know who it is, because if you grew up in our day and age where you only had cartoons on Saturdays and there
Oh,
was like five
Joel
channels
Osteen.
and there was only PBS was one of them, and Joel Osteen would be preaching to huge like stadiums full of people. People are standing in the back, they're standing around the aisles. It's full. And she made a really good, valid point that was really hard at the time to see because of my religion, like the way that I shut the door on Christianity. That
Especially somebody like that, right? Like
yes,
this, even what do they
very
call him?
he's very intense, I guess, for better lack of
Yeah.
words, because I don't know what the words are
I'm gonna
here.
say, okay, so I'm gonna brutal it, but it's not a even oh, god damn. Evangelicalist is
Evangelicus.
yeah, like that's what I think they're called.
Yeah, I'm gonna
And
look
it's
while we're talking, but a televangelist,
yes, 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 yes.
televangelist, meaning like he's on TV preaching, baby.
Mm.
She made a good point that this man fills the stadium every time he is talking. Every time he is talking, the stadium is completely filled with people. And that was the point she was making. And I couldn't see past it because I was like, ew, but it's Joel Olstein, and I have this thing with him. And I was like, I don't wanna, But then once I was able to move out of that, I was like, damn, that's a really good point. That's a really good point.
Well, because that's the thing is throwing out the baby with the bathwater again. Like, yeah, it's not somebody I want to necessarily hang out with or take a gospel from, right? Like take everything he says as being true. But spirit, he is still spirit, technically. He is still God, incarnate or whatever we want to reputation of an expression of God, right? So just like everything else, you have to use your discernment to find out what it is. And if it's, also, if it's not for you, it's not for you either. I was, if Damien is my mentor and and I'm going through waters that I am unfamiliar with and I don't have the grounding in and I don't know what's new and what's bad and what's good and I'm just new. I just don't I'm naive, right? Like
Yeah.
I need him to hold my hand a little bit through this because I just don't know. So when he says to read this book, the first thing that I thought was like, "Ugh," and I was like, but I was like, well, if that's the first thing he tells me to read, I'm going to read it
Yep.
because there's something in there that I need. So you read it and you're like, all right, then now I can see like why certain parts of it are very um needed because he says it in a different way and he says it he translates manifestation into a more digestible way sometimes,
Yeah. It's like an easier
right?
soup. You can pick
Yeah,
out what's
like
in it.
right. Uh and I thought that was very helpful.
I know,
um
I was
oh, go
gonna
ahead.
say, I know this is a turn off the wrong onto the wrong road direction here, but this is the way my brain works. Do you know who I'd love to have if you could pick any, that question that people say where it's like if you could pick anybody to come to dinner, who would it be? I would really be entertained and very fascinated to see Joel Olstein and Aleister Crowley at the same table.
The funny thing is I don't think it would be that like I bet you they get along quite well.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I'm
Hmm.
wondering like where the parallels would come in, like what would be because these are two people that are famously not liked, right? Like there's something there. Yes, say Aleister
They're
Crowley and
both
the freaking metaphysical.
devils.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
thing. I personally would love to hear the conversations that they had. Like, let's keep in mind, like, let's say, like, the time doesn't matter in man-made concept. It's just those two individuals. Basically, let's say they experience the same time frame. Like, I don't know, the 60s, whatever it might be. But like, I just would love to see their ideas come together, like them have conversation together and like what that would look like. Because it's two very different beliefs at the same time that to me have some similarities in the way of like how they work. Does that make
Mm-hmm.
sense?
Mm-hmm. No, that would be a very interesting, like, fly on the wall moment because
Oh
I would
God.
be like,
And then he said, and then he said, and then he said,
I,
and then
and
they
I'm at
both
a
said.
dinner table. I'm like, I need to take notes. I didn't know.
Yeah, I'd be like hitting record on my phone, like, can you speak a
Right?
little louder? It didn't catch that part.
I'm gonna need you to speak into this.
Yeah, because there's probably gonna be things you guys talk about that I need to digest and break down and then put it back together so I can understand
Right?
what you're
I'd
even
be like,
saying.
excuse me, I don't understand. And they're like, what? All of it.
All of it. They're like, anyways, anyways.
Oh, it's such a baby. Sit down.
Yeah, literally, we're not
You're
gonna
like, I'll just
babysit
get in
it.
my high chair. It'll be fine.
Yes. Um, yeah, sorry for the detour, but I it made me think about that because I was like, oh, that would be, I would just, there'd be a fly on that wall during that dinner. Mm, I would love
Mm-hmm.
it. I would love it.
That would be very nice.
Um, okay, so am I searching today? I was on YouTube looking through videos and I found this one. It was like an Indian conclave. So it was just like a big sit down conversation, right? And it was it was really good, but he talked about, he got asked the question, do you believe in God? He said no. And then he goes, well, you know what? He's like, let me refrain. Let me rephrase all of that. And he basically gave the idea that there are two gods in the collective. And and you choose between the two, and it can be situational when you choose between the two because you could use, it's kind of reminded me of like Big E, Little E ego-ish, where he was like, you can go from the one God in the same sentence to the next in the same sentence, one to the other, right, in the same sentence. And so what he said is that there's one God who's mystical and above our comprehension within this lifetime. And then there's this other one who we know way too much about. So the mystical one, so above our comprehension. We don't know a lot about it. We might think we know some things like the fact that, well, not the fact, but the belief that it is this unconditional love light being. And that might be all you really know about the God because
Mm-hmm.
your human brain too tiny to compute. Anyways,
Right.
then there's this other one that we know way too much about. And he was like, this one is used to control others. He said it's the one that dictates female dress code. It's the one that dictates human conduct because we believe that we know everything about this God, the way that it's going to talk, the way that it says they do things, all of this
Yeah.
stuff. And he was like, I believe that the one that we don't know that much about is the one that I believe in and that I'm okay with. The one that we know way too much about is the one that I have a problem with. And it made so much sense to me because
Mm-hmm.
outside of religion, outside of culture, I feel like that makes so much sense to me in my head where I'm like, yes, that's the problem. It's not God is the problem. It is the way that these two different ideas of a being are used and can be used within the same one sentence to validate oneself, but also forgive oneself. Does that make sense? Did I say that
Yeah.
right?
No, yeah, you said that right. And it's very, it's very interesting because, when you're talking about the concept of God, if if they are everything, then they are everything. That's it, right? Like I always have said, like everybody is here for a reason and a purpose. But that also means even the serial killer down the street is also here for a reason and here for a purpose. right? Like this is why you and I also watch um Nature is Metal, right?
Yeah.
Like that is also God. It's the destruction and the like, because one thing that I had heard that I really liked is God means generate, order, and destroy. And if you think about that concept, it is in everything, because if you think about just in a plant, it generates, it orders, and then it goes to destruction. There's a cycle to it, right?
Dude, that's a huge statement. The way that that could be broken so further down, but yes, that is, I have never heard that, and I'm like, really love that. Generate, order, and
Order,
destroy.
destroy. Yep. Because you can even see the concept in like you made a building and then you put a business in it, and that's order. So you generated it, ordered, and then at some point the business is no longer, it's served its purpose, and it destroys.
Oh my God. Think about the seasons. The seed grows, the seed is there, it's producing, and then it dies.
Mm-hmm. And we cycle
Cycle of
all over
nature.
again. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm. I like that. Funny, I found a concept too because I was hoping that you were going to bring that up, and you did. You said, and this is why we watch Nature is Metal. And I said, oop, I got one because I saw it and I was like, oh, we got to talk about this. So
Mm-hmm.
there's another concept, obviously, about God, because that's what we're talking about today. Sorry. That God as an existential being might actually be imperfect and is evolving through his creations. And that's why we have things like violence and things like that. The other flip side of that is that God's already perfect, but is unable to express that perfection into the world at its current standing.
Well, yeah, because it brings me back to the whole like alchemy kind of thing. So if spirit being one, and it also goes with Gnostics too, because they believe in the fall of Sophia. So if, and granted, like, I know very little bit about all of the stuff, so please forgive me on all my stuff. But if God, if light being, if the one source is all knowing and all being, well, there's nowhere to go from there, right? That's it. That's we're one, we're it, whatever. So to express itself or to find more, to expand itself, to know more, it has to go through this alchemical process. So it falls into matter and becomes born so that we can express, so the one source can express themselves over and over and over again, because that's how expansion works. And then we have to have things that are painful and uh motivating, really, to expand. If you're comfortability is what will kill you, because
Mhm.
you won't expand from that comfortability. If you're comfortable, n- n- you've learned everything. You wouldn't be motivated to try to do other things. I mean, think about it. When you're sitting down or when you're in bed and you're comfortable, how much do you stay there because you're comfortable? But if you were uncomfortable, you wouldn't stay in bed. You would have to move, you would have to change, you would have to do something else to like find maybe that comfortability, or find why you're hurting, or it's a motivation process where like if you're comfortable, like right there, man, you could dissolve away and it'd be fine.
Nicole's trying to lure me to her house and jump in bed and take naps with her today. That's what that was. I'm just kidding.
Come, come,
Come, take naps.
come. It's the perfect day for it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I like this concept. I think it's an interesting concept to contemplate, right? That idea that, because the thing is either way that you spin that concept, perfection's not comfortability, I guess, can go along with also perfection. It's just not, you wouldn't be here if you hit you were the perfect being. You just wouldn't be
Mm.
here anymore because the closer you get to God, the further you become more godly. And who is walking around with God's status here?
I mean, there's a couple people that would say yes.
Well, take the ego out of it. Who's walking around with God's status? Nobody, because
Well, if everything's a cycle too. Like that's the thing is that you have to, it's almost like you reach God status, but then you're bored, so you jump back in. So you
hmm,
fall because you get to fall in love with God all over again.
hmm,
If you already are there, what's more is there going to do? Do you know what I mean? That's like you have to fall, you have to forget because you have to refine. Like we talk about, star-crossed lovers, and I'll find you in some other, lifetime. I will, we all see this movie playing out, right?
hmm,
And that concept is also with spirit is that you have to forget about it because you have to fall in love with it all over again. It's the falling in love with it. It's not the end goal. It's not the prize that we like. It's the getting to it.
yep.
But we forget that. We negate the getting to it and we think this is, well, if I didn't have to do this, then like I could be doing something else or whatever. Like you it's that whole you enjoy the process of it instead of the end goal. Because once you get the end goal, then what are you gonna do?
Well, that's probably beyond our understanding.
Well, think about it. Like if you I always like the concept of think about it when you were pursuing a romantic partner or a love interest or a crush or something, right? Like the joy and the feeling you get from the new relationship that you're starting is so intoxicating and so overwhelming and so like you get to tell them all your stories, you're starting to learn their stories, like it's this honeymoon period, right? um but after a while the real work starts to like unfold
Mhm.
because everybody can be there when the sun is shining, right? It's we don't evolve. The lure is the intoxication. You stay because it's the work that you need to do to stay in that relationship, right? For a
Yeah.
long period of time. The problem is I think we get a little bit like the discernment kind of goes out sometimes because we remember the honeymoon period so much and we're longing for that to come back that we still do this like these cycles that sometimes can't be healthy for us. So it's these waters are very troubled. They're very foggy. Like you get lost because there's no boundaries or walls to tell you that like you're not in a rat maze. Like you can't be like, oh, you got to go this way because you hit a wall. Like there's no boundaries. And you really have to, I think when it comes to, that kind of stuff is like you really have to like figure out what are you willing to do again and again and again and still come with the same outcome. Like I think eventually we get tired of that or we finally like hitting your head against the wall kind of thing.
Yeah.
I really don't know where I'm going with this, but anyway. Um, so I like when I'm going through stuff like this, I try to anchor on to certain things. Like if God is everything and God is all loving, those are the anchors that I have, right? Because they feel the truest to me.
Yeah, and you know what? That's another point that I had too, is that the truth of the matter of God is that we don't know what God is, and that doesn't mean that God is true or false, because we can only speculate, and everything is speculation. It lives in the realm of speculation and beliefs. So whatever feels good to you is totally fine. You know what I mean? Where it's like even you just said, like, yeah, that's what I believe.
Well, and that's the thing, it's like, okay, but the thing what we don't want to do is tell other people what we think God should be for them. And
Yes,
I think that's where
100%.
we get our little like hairs kind of crossed, is that we get into this mode of this righteous mode of like, well, you're doing it wrong. Well, you're not, because you're an expression of God and I'm an expression of God. We're both expressing it in our ways, our forms. We're not supposed to be the same. We're not supposed to be carbon copies of each other. We're not. And I think that's where we really get twisted in in humaning, is the fact that we think we're supposed to be like everybody else. So then we beat ourselves up about not being like everybody else. When you have a certain type of medicine, you have a certain type of chemistry that you are bringing to this quantum field that we don't understand. So that's why it gets a little tricky, because we are supposed to like forge our own paths. Well, those are hard. Like that's, if I'm cutting down the jungle for the first time, that's hard. But if you're
Yeah.
coming behind me, your journey is a little bit easier. So of course we tend to go a little bit easier because it's a little bit easier. But that's not where necessarily where it stays at. You can start off in that path, but eventually you have to go into the jungle or the forest by yourself and forge your own path, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think
Yeah.
that's where we get a little twisted. We get to the point of where we want to tell people, Christianity, well, I think the three major religions are very they do this very well, is they tell people what they want them to believe, and then the people are bored, but yet they keep doing the same thing over and over again. So then you can kind of see it right now, where religion is kind of lost.
I will agree to that. I will agree to that because even today I have like a couple things that really like were just so cool concepts about God, and one of them has Jesus, one of them has Buddha, and another one has Plato, and Plato is a Greek philosopher. And it's like I found it very interesting because I feel like some of them could be triggering to people, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And then it makes me want to say, if it's triggering to you, it's definitely something to look at.
Absolutely. Like, why is it triggering?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and the triggers are the best place for us to heal our hurts and our wounds. Like you and I were talking about earlier about I watched a show on Netflix called Baby Reindeer. And I watched it because I knew it was going to be triggering. And boy, was it. But with that concept, it was so fascinating to watch it, because if you get through the triggered parts of it and you really see what this film is kind of like telling you, it it's a very deep, and it made me understand, or at least look into the fact of like questioning your own sexuality, figuring out after, a trauma has happened to you, what do you do next? And then, like I said, the one statement that I took from it that keeps playing in my head right now is the fact that the main character was like, I loved her. I loved her, a lot, but I loved something so much more. And I loved hating myself more. And I was like, oh. And in this concept, the way I kind of felt it was a blanket over all humanity, every person that I've seen, and every person that is in my uh like everybody. You kind of It kind of made me really sit back and have compassion for humans as in a collective, because sometimes we know we're choosing something bad for us, but we choose it anyway because we love to hate ourselves. Like, I legit yesterday I was like, well, I'm gonna go and get a burger, like a hamburger. And I was gonna go to McDonald's. And we all know that McDonald's is bad for us and stuff, but like, Texans, right? Love them.
Yeah, love them.
And I kept playing in my head that I was like, because you love to hate yourself. That's why you're gonna eat that. And I was like, ugh.
You're like, this is ruining this.
So I did not choose to get McDonald's that day. I'm not a saint.
No, but congratulations, buddy.
I mean, I did order a hamburger from Haymaker instead. Better quality.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But this concept has really helped me. I mean, I just finished it, so we'll see in a week or so how I've digested it. But at this point in time, like a lot of things that I do that are against myself, I remember that I love hating myself. And the
Yeah.
funny thing is that it has nothing to do with anybody else.
Right.
I'm not blaming anybody else. I'm not using old triggers. It legit is myself.
You know what you sound like? And if you guys have been listening to us, you guys will understand why I'm saying this. Black Madonna.
Oh,
Oh, yeah. It's coming through real heavy.
yeah.
Real heavy. I was like, I couldn't stop hearing in my head. I'm like, that is that Black Madonna energy, dude.
Yeah.
Fucking hitting you
Uh,
heavy.
it is. It is. It was very eye-opening to watch it. It's a hard thing to get through. Um, I
One, two,
don't think
three,
I'll ever
four.
watch it again, but
It's one, two, three, four.
oh, okay, maybe I should watch it again. Anyway, but I had enough right now. I did watch something about Alan Watts has something because I typed in YouTube like what is God? And Alan Watts came up.
Mhm.
I always like hearing. I don't know any of his background. I don't really care, to be honest. I love hearing him. So a lot of times if I'm feeling depressed or sad, I will listen to him because it's very inspirational to me. And the one thing, the fact that you brought up Black Madonna is why I'm bringing this up because like he legit was like, what is God? He's like, well, she's black and she's a girl. And he went on this whole like thing. It was so beautifully put. Um, because like it's the substance that we all come from, but we don't even like know that we come from that substance because we don't even acknowledge it. The
Li-
only reasons the stars can shine is because they're in the Black Madonna.
Listen, I put a whole thing in here because, like, when we were talking about, the idea of the two gods, I was gonna say that I believe in the one that we don't know much about because God would be and is in my mind beyond description, and it's beyond our comprehension, other than the beliefs that God is like what we experience as unconditional love. And now in my head, that God changes form and shape and takes different filters based on my situation, such as I truly believe, and that there is a shape of God that takes on the Black Madonna. And I believe that there is a cosmic part of God that shows itself within the Black Madonna.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You have to have that one side that's mysterious and free formed. And then you have to have the structure side as well. Like you have to kind of have both because they both came from the same place. They both were one at one time. But because we fall into matter, we all are particles.
I hope you guys are still here. This is big, like we said. Should have gave a trigger warning that this might be a little brain warpy today, but
Here we are.
yeah, listen, if I told you guys what I put into AI about my own beliefs, I was reading through it again and I was like, I'd be hurting brains. I'd be really hurting brains, man.
Well, I think because our motto or description is I believe everything and I believe nothing all at the
All
same
at the same
time,
time.
right?
Yep.
So if everything is everything, if everything is God, then everything is God.
Everything is everything. What's that song?
Oh, I don't know. I know that song, but I don't know anything about it.
Lauryn Hill.
Of course. I love Lauryn
Everything is
Hill.
everything. Love her. So, okay, trigger warning, I'm going to talk about Jesus. I'm going to talk about Buddha. I'm going to talk about Plato because I feel like these were really great concepts to just give us like a good idea of some of these concepts. It's just good concepts to talk about because I do truly feel now that I have gone through religion for most of my life, gotten out of religion, and I'm now into like this occult, esoteric, what else did it give me? New spirituality, newism, spirituality, whatever I'm in. I can see it differently. And I thought this was really cool. So we're going to talk about Jesus for a second because I thought these two things were mm, pure gold. Um, I saw this article and this woman is talking about Jesus and said, Jesus tells us again and again that God is love. He does not judge or condemn the prostitute caught in the act, but finds a clever way of saving her from getting stoned when he declares, let he who has not sinned cast the first stone. It is an
Mm-hmm.
expression of that love which he believes in. God does it, what's crazy is like the Bible is a whole nother conversation on a different day, right? But when we're talking specifically about God, it there's not so many structured forms as especially as you get into the New Testament and when Jesus is here giving us his teachings. Now, granted, this we all know we have talked about this. It's been translated. There are mistranslations. It's been changed, blah, 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 whatever. One of the things that has stayed true through all these different translations is Jesus's teachings. Like Jesus said, he who has seen me has seen the Father when speaks of God, and he claimed that God is love. And according to the Gospels, Jesus demonstrated love in his life. And if God is love, then the expression of that love should be what each of us strive for, whether it be towards other human beings or towards animals or every other living thing.
Yes.
Yes. She's so excited. Yes. Because I think that there's a lot of there's the Bible unfortunately has become something that is weaponized. I'll say it and it's true. There are times it's not weaponized and it's used for really, I mean, God, you guys, the gospels in there can be amazing. Like there's prayers in there, Psalms. Psalms can be so powerful if you can break it down. Know thyself broke down book one of Genesis, and it was so profound to me because I had never heard it described in that way. They broke it down in an occultist way, an esoteric way. I loved it. The Bible can be used just like a hand fan can be used. Everything can be used in different ways, right? That's called polarity. It's part of learning. But I think that that is such a beautiful thing to think about because I haven't thought about that in a long time because of course me growing up Christian, I read the Bible like 3 times. So there was parts I skipped because names sucked. But that was something that was huge in the New Testament is Jesus displayed love and kept continually telling people that God is love. Not, oh, God's a man sitting on a throne with a beard and long dark hair and blah, blah, blah. No, it was God is love. That was it. That was a huge thing in the way that he walked through life while he lived his lifetime here.
Mm-hmm.
And
No,
that I can like get with.
I've had a hard time with the description of God in the Bible, Old Testament, New Testament, because I was always like, well, so wait, so he was mad, and then his son came down and we killed him, and then like he's fine now. I'm like, what? I don't understand. I didn't understand it. I'm like, I don't, why? Why was he mad and now he's not mad? Like, I don't, did he get scolded somewhere in between? Somebody told him to stop that shit? Like, I don't
Whack Nada
understand.
jumped up in there and said, you fucking knock that shit off. Whack.
Right. Whack. And, like, I get, like, we all have our stuff too. So, like, and, you can choose to go as far as you want to. You can push your boundaries as far as you want to. And I get that. but again, don't push over somebody's ladder just because you don't want to go any further. Right? Like if you're triggered and you're off the bus, that's fine, but don't stop the bus.
Yeah.
Right? Get off, do your thing, and it's fine. But don't tell somebody their shit just because they, believe something different or see it in a different way. This is this is the spirituality expressing themselves. And the thing is if we had more debates instead of arguments, we would learn and see and have more compassionate for people that have different views. It would actually be more exciting about life instead of being like, well, you're dumb.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Because
Like,
there's nothing more that I hate than watching a debate on YouTube and being like I found this with when I was researching flat earth, and the one guy was like, well, you're dumb. I'm like, how is that a debate?
that's called he gave up.
He's like, you're dumb, you're stupid, I don't know, you're an idiot. Like you're saying this, you're saying it's flat, you're an idiot. And I was like, you're not even defending it in a way of like
He ran out of information, didn't know what to say, got mad,
that's
and threw out
exactly.
a really not smart comment in a debate.
Yeah, because I'm like, if you want to know your concept, your belief, if you want to really know your belief, talk to somebody that has somebody that a different belief.
Hmm.
Because the things that you can find out about your belief through their eyes is amazing. And it makes I'm not saying that you will change your mind. I'm saying that you will grow and expand is what you will do.
There is on YouTube a place that has really good debates. That you're making me think of, so I wanted to look it up really quick.
Yeah, because didn't you find that group that does debating on TikTok?
They're so good. They're so good.
Yeah.
I went and
Hmm.
watched, there's one of religion versus atheist. And I will say now, keep in mind it's Jubilee. Now, Jubilee sometimes has some people on. Oh, could you hear that?
No, what was it?
That scared me. I'm sorry. I clicked on Jubilee and a video came up and it was like really loud with like booming music. And I was like, oh my God. Who's, and it's like six Indians versus one secret Korean. And they're all, I'm Indian. I'm Indian. I'm like, who's Indian? What's happening? Okay, Jubilee might feel controversial to you. It's meant to be.
Right.
They have debates on there of very popular subjects. They just had one that TikTok's going crazy about, and it was like fit versus fat, all in men. And one of the guys on there, um, is not the kindest person. So keep in mind, these are meant to catch your attention. These are meant to make you feel something. They're meant to get you thinking. Now, granted, do I agree with everything that happens? No, because like, of course I care about people. So sometimes I think that, you can get a little shitty on debates and I've seen it happen. Most of that time though, it's because people are triggered and you can
Right.
see when it happens, when you're aware of like people's triggers. In the atheism versus religion one, there is a person on there who is very triggered, and you can see it because what they do to combat them being triggered is they start talking over the other person. They get very loud and very like direct and sharp, pointy words, right? And you could see when they get triggered by what the person who had the opposite side has to say. It's fascinating to watch because if you guys have been going through their seasons with us and doing the work, I think you'll also enjoy it as much as I did. Just hearing these
Hmm.
different ideas, and there's some really good concepts that these people bring up within their own beliefs, and it was really fascinating because they have a Christian, they have a Hindu, they have somebody who doesn't, they have two people that don't believe in anything, one person who's Wiccan. It was very, very good. But they have some good debates. I want to tell you guys about that. Jubilee on YouTube.
No,
Super
I think that's a
fascinating.
good idea. Well, and it's very interesting. Like in your search for God, you should watch this stuff and then look up all the other religions as well. Because even at that point, when you go into like Hinduism, like they believe everybody's God. So like, and they don't have like when they have prophets that are reborn, they don't tell them that they're not prophets. They just, oh, okay. Like they just do it.
Yeah.
And they talk about how they like play hide and seek with God or like, oh, so that's how you showed up today, God. Like, and I thought that was very cool because it almost, because if we are all God, which they're saying the same thing that we're saying, is that then you can show up and be like, oh, so you're an angry woman today, God. That's okay, right? Like that's how you're
Yeah.
expressing yourself today. Or, whatever it comes up as. Not to say that obviously like to be in a really centered place, like and being, when you're being like either yelled at or something, being triggered, not feeling safe, all that kind of stuff, that makes it a little harder to really like be centered and be like, oh, hi, God. Like, I get it. Like, I'm not saying that we should, whatever, but
But also
I,
keep in mind the four agreements. Anyways, continue, friend.
right. Put those in your back pockets.
Yeah, for real.
And I feel like the God is the trigger. God is the person triggering you. God is you. So if you have all of that, and we just have a limited language that we can't really like express it. But I think that's the point too.
I agree.
But I don't know, like my own journey finding God um is very uh like it started with Jesus. It started with art, really. It started with like Christian art and like Renaissance stuff. And I was so drawn to these figures and the way they painted them. And it was it's so beautiful. Um, Angels and demons and all this kind of stuff. This very dramatic, very theatrical kind of stories that we're telling ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of times we get caught up in just consuming and not really tasting what we're watching or eating or, that kind of thing. And I think if we just slowed down a little bit and really thought about like what you are consuming on a daily basis, you would almost give your attention to something else because it would just be better for you or it would just align because each of these things that we watch is a step to something greater. But sometimes we stay on a step and it's hard to like move to the next rep.
Well, and I feel like what goes along with this, which I don't know why I didn't think to talk about this earlier, but victimhood's a big one when it comes to God.
Mm-hmm.
Because when things aren't going right in your life, which trust me, I did this because your girl was like I said, she was Christian and God, I'd love to blame God. Why would you do this to me, God?
Mm-hmm.
What did I ever do? I'm a good Christian, blah, blah, blah. Whatever, the case may be. That was
Right.
mine specifically. And we get really caught up in victimhood because we haven't, done the work to heal it. And I think that is something that's a big player in the belief and not belief for whatever you may believe. A lot of this is victimhood, and I will say that because I have been through it. I've been through it on both flip sides of the coin.
Mm-hmm.
Because once God
Well,
wasn't really in my picture, who did I have to blame? Everybody else. It was never me.
right, right. And then like that's the point is like you're like eventually you go, oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
We create our own misery.
We do, and we're so blinded to the fact that we do create our own misery, right? Like,
Mhm.
we would much rather, and I still get caught up in this where I get like, well, you did this to me, and now I'm mad or whatever. When really, I just did it to myself.
Yeah, I do that too.
Hmm.
I think the big part of like getting out of that is like the when you finally or get to a point where you can be like, I'm sorry I did that. No excuses,
Hmm.
nothing. It's just like a genuine I'm sorry. It feels good because not
Hmm.
only are you like forgiving yourself through asking somebody for forgiveness, you're also like creating better bonds. But yeah, I think that when a lot of like what am I where it's coming in, I'm sorry. They're okay. What we want to do is when something bad happens, we want somebody to blame. We know this, okay? And that's where a lot of this victimhood comes from. But the thing is like, it feels good to be able to blame it on an opponent being, right? Like a being that is there but not there because we can't really prove it. And so it feels good to be able to be like, oh, I didn't do it. Nobody else did it around me. It's easiest if I can blame it on God because you could same as we were talking earlier, there it is. The same as that we were talking earlier about how there's two different gods. You can also not believe in God, but also blame things on God all in the same breath. And that's
Hmm.
the things that we got to start also, looking at ourselves is the way that we talk. You'll hear it when you say something, when you start becoming aware of the way that you talk or the things that you say, especially when it comes to big concepts like this, right? You'll start being very aware of the words you're saying, and you will catch yourself being like, wait, did I just blame that on God, even though I say I don't believe in it? And you'll start having this little inner battle. Now, the goal isn't necessarily to get a concrete idea of what you believe in. It's not to like nail it down in the dirt and be like, this is my concrete. I dug this in by hand. I believe in this. It's to become open-mindedness. Ooh, that was hard to get out. Sorry, it like was like this image, this image, this image.
Hmm.
It's just about becoming open-minded. It's about starting to do the healing work to be able to get to a point where like you can hear different perspectives. You can start feeling what you feel, what you truly feel deep down without feeling shame or guilt because you're going against yourself or without feeling the victimhood of like, no, I can't do that because that's what hurt me. It's moving past all of that.
Yeah. It's, instead of like, we're very conditioned to like, oh, if I pick up this cup and it hurts me, I will never pick this cup up again.
Yes.
And I find that in so many places, like they're like, oh, well, if this bad thing happened, we must change it. And I'm like, well, it happened one time.
Yep.
It's not, it's not happening every time. So why are we changing this concept? Like, why? Maybe you were supposed to get hurt. Being hurt is not bad or wrong, right?
And
But we consider it as being bad and wrong. Like I know I had a conversation with somebody about um uh death. And I was really surprised when she said that like death was evil. And I was like,
wow, it's a big
whoa,
statement.
right.
Yeah.
I was like, how do you believe that death is evil? Like that's not.
Wow.
And she's very intelligent. She is very religious, spiritual, whatever. Um, and to be that well read and that well, like, I don't know. I just feel like that was a concept that I was like, what?
Yeah.
how do you believe that death is evil? First of all, like, do you really want to live forever? I don't know about you all, but I'm fucking tired.
You're only trying to live forever.
I'm not I'm not necessarily wanting to die now, but like,
Forever's a
dissolving
long fucking time, dog.
dissolving back into a whole pool of light sounds amazing to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like this is the concept. We're afraid because we don't really know about where we're going to go afterwards, if there is an afterwards, like what if the atheists are right? There's nothing beyond this mortal shell. And for that kind of stuff, like I don't know, I just find it the more that we're starting to learn, the more we're expanding on things. Like we know that there are ghosts and spirits and like stuff like this that are unseen. And I kind of feel like there's got to be something after our life, whether that's being reborn. And I think each person has their own journey. I think each person has their own, each soul has their own filter, their own alchemy to go through to get to certain levels or realms that they need to be in to remember that they are God, to remember, how to be connected to source, remembering what source was and how loving it is.
Yeah, I think what goes along with this too is you don't have to put a label on anything. That's what I just want to say, I guess that. You don't have to put a label on anything you believe. You don't have to say you don't believe in anything. You don't have to say you believe in anything at all. You just don't have to put labels on it to have a personal belief within. Um,
Absolutely. I don't have to prove my point to anybody either.
Nobody does exactly. And I feel like there is something that I have witnessed multiple times, like a defensiveness that comes along with either or. I truly believe in this. I truly don't believe in anything. And in my own view, it's unnecessary. It's unnecessary to put yourself through or put others through as well because you're putting a box on yourself.
A
And
limitation, yeah.
you're telling yourself it's bad if you go outside of that box. So if you do think you have a belief in anything, say it you believe in nothing, but you believe in ghosts, and you can't make that make sense because you've told yourself you believe in nothing. You did it to yourself, you know. So don't, I think when it comes to trying to start this journey, if you're wanting to or explore it deeper than what you have knowledge of, try not to put limitations on yourself. Try not to make yourself feel bad. Try not to make be like shameful because you believe in something even though you've told yourself this whole time you don't,
Mm-hmm.
or shameful because you believed in this one thing and now that you've done more research and meditated or done these different things to really get in touch with, yourself even, and you don't believe it anymore, don't make yourself feel bad about that either because this is part of that openness we've been talking about where you
Mm-hmm.
you can flow better, you can start to move into things and start really getting down to like what you believe in and what you don't. And who knows, maybe you'll end up right here with me and Nicole on this podcast telling us that you believe in everything and nothing now and you understand.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's just a way of like, all of it's right.
Yeah.
Whether it's Christianity, whether it's Hindu, whether it's Buddhism, whether it's Satanism, whether
Atheism.
it's atheism, whatever label you want to pull out of your hat to, you know, it's all right. It's all the same concept through different filters. And if I'm searching for God, why wouldn't I look at all these different expressions so I can get a picture, a clearer picture of what God actually is?
Yeah.
Because if he is everything, that means he is part of the Satanism. That means he is part of the Buddhas. That means he is part of, do you know what I mean? Like the Greek gods. Like all of that is expression of the same being.
Mhm.
And I think we limit ourselves if you're going to um just do one,
Yeah.
which is fine too, right? Like, depends
Yeah.
on what you want.
I mean, shit, Nicole, and I'll tell you it's fine. I would love to hear what you
Absolutely.
believe just because I want to hear about it. I'm not going to argue it, but I would love to hear it because I find it
Mm-hmm.
fascinating when people have really strong beliefs. I really enjoy listening to it.
Mm-hmm.
But also just know I might question it, and that's not a bad thing. I'm not trying to change your mind. I'm questioning so that I can further understand.
Yeah, that's the other thing is like, I want people to start questioning everything.
Yeah.
And that's is a hard concept because I've noticed when I've questioned people trying to find their authentic, like if we're doing a haircut, if we're doing a color, and they don't know what they want, but they want something different. So then, or they bring in a picture, and then you start questioning, what are you seeing in this picture? Do you see this? Are you seeing this? Why do you want this? Do you want it this length? And the more you start questioning, the more they start going, no, I just what I do whatever you want. And I was like, no, 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 come, come, come. This is a safe place. I'm not questioning you to judge you. I'm questioning you because I'm trying to help you.
Also, sometimes it is curiosity as well, but yes, mostly for the help.
Mhm.
Here's the thing, too, you guys, is like when you get questioned, you further strengthen your belief or you start to question it so that you can change it. It's not a bad thing, it's a good thing because you either get more information so that you can further your belief and have all that knowledge, because again, knowledge is power, but you might question it. So then you go deeper into it and you might find that, oh my gosh, okay, I do kind of believe in this, but now I believe in it in this way.
Right. And I think right there is where, for me, definitely, and I think for you too, is where spirituality really starts,
Oh,
is
yeah.
all of it together.
This person ended this article with saying this, and I thought you would nearly like this too. They said, if you want to know God or get anywhere close to knowing God, let's start again by admitting that we don't know, but keeping the mind and heart open to the possibility that one day we might. It may start by
Mhm.
performing your duty as best you can, which is what Plato advised, and living in harmlessness as the Hindu teachings advocate, not just towards human beings, but towards all beings. It echoes
Mhm.
Jesus' words, do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
Mhm.
I was like, oh, that's really good.
Well, that's the whole thing. Wake up and try to be, a little bit better than you were yesterday.
Always do your best.
Wake up and, you know, start again. Do it again. You know, find out what really makes you feel good. And this is where meditation helps. This is where a lot of our practices, our tools, our emotional grounding, that's where all this was like helps. These are all tools and things that we can help us to see the bigger picture, to uh realize that we need each one of us to be just a little bit different to get things done.
Hell yeah.
Like you can't just have a whole room of architect people. You have to have the construction people. You have to have the manager to manage all the little aspects of it. You have to have all these other like things in play to create something big and beautiful.
Mhm.
You can't just have one concept doing it. So what I, go to different churches, see which one feels the best. And it will be scary and it's supposed to be. You just have to go and show up and do it. Now, mind you, they're not going to kick you out, I don't think. They're not going to like throw stones at you or was it tar and feather you? Like they at most it might make you feel a little uncomfortable and then you just know that that's not for you and that's fine. And then you move on to another. But I think sitting in a spiritual place and really absorbing that energy is really good for the soul.
Yeah. I'd also say, dude, her always meditate on it. See what you get. Put your beliefs in the AI. It'll give you a direction, What else could you do? I mean, there's still to this day, there is some Christian music that makes me freaking cry. I don't understand why, but it does. It feels so good. Um, I mean, do your research, dude, and told you about that one with the history. If that's your thing, get into it. Dig. But
Mm-hmm.
every religion and every culture, for the most part, I should say, and most belief systems have their beliefs out there, and you
Mm-hmm.
can find what aligns for you.
Yeah, you just have to kind of like, it's just a journey. This is one of the journeys that nobody can really do for you.
Mm-mm.
If you find God in a single blade of grass, then meditate on that piece of grass until God shows his face.
Yeah, I like that. Miss Miyagi.
Mhm.
Miss Miyagi. That's what I've got.
Oh,
Do you guys want any more? Want me to? We could really throw you over the edge here.
right. No life
I'm
preserver. We're just going into the deep.
gonna shove you, man. Okay. Do you have anything else, my friend?
No, I think that's about as much as we can like stir up the waters.
Yeah, in one sitting without drowning you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. Our next episode's on women of the Bible. Um, and yeah, we'll be going over some women in the Bible. Not really sure what that means yet, but we will have it figured out for you next week.
Oh, I will. Well, since you brought up the Bible, because I forgot to say this. There's a guy on TikTok that I've been following that's like a scholar of the Bible or whatever, and he blah blah blah. So he said something about if you want to read the Bible, just get the one that is the most easiest to read.
Hmm, that's a very
Um,
valid point.
because it'll be easier for you to understand. It will, it's not about, we get so caught up on like, well, there's been many translation or man translated it or blah blah blah. We get hung up on all these like different kind of concepts of that. And it's like, dude, okay, just put all of that shit down and pick up the Bible. That's it. Like, we know that they've been translated multiple times. We know that there's secrets and there's stuff that's been put in and then stuff that hasn't been put in. And that's great for scholars. But if you read it just as stories and you get what you get out of it, that's all you need to do. It doesn't need to like, it's not a how to playlist of life. There's stories, they're fables, they're like telling you these things that you get to like concept, like don't throw a stone unless you haven't sinned. And since we've all sinned, we can't throw the stones, right?
Mhm.
So just if you've been curious about it, but it's a very overwhelming, they make it very overwhelming. Just go out, get something that is easy to digest, and then see where it leads from there. Because maybe that's it. You never pick up another Bible again. That's all you needed. If you want after that, if you get like obsessed with it, then you can like, I don't know, you could probably even teach yourself Aramaic and then you can read it straight from the source. It depends on how deep you want to go. But don't believe everything you hear about it. And these are just ways of keeping you small and down.
Mhm.
And don't put up with that shit.
Yeah, and if you're somebody who like has read the Bible but you want a different meaning, listen to Know Thyself. The way they break it down, I've never heard that before in my freaking life.
Right, right. Because there is a very esoteric way of, like they talk about the 12 disciples being the 12 consolations. They
Hmm.
talk about Jesus being the actual son. And it makes sense because you have SUN and you have SON and they mean the same thing. So there are, and that's the other thing is like you don't take it literally, you take it metaphorically.
Yeah. There's just goes back to right, there's filters for everything and it can be interpreted in many different ways.
Mhm. And if somebody's trying to yell at you to tell you that this is the way it's supposed to be and that's the only way it's supposed to be, I would run the other way.
Yeah, I concur. I don't need that, thank you.
No,
Yeah, you
that's
could
not
just
the way.
simply say, no,
No.
no, 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 no.
Thank you, but no.
Literally.
Mhm.
Okay, friends. Women in the Bible next week. Be here. Come with open-mindedness. It's going to be fun. I think it's going to be fun.
We're talking about women. Of course it's going to be fun.
Fuck yeah.
Wait, there's women in the Bible?
Oh, weird, right?
That's weird.
Is the Black Madonna in the Bible? I'm just kidding. No.
Well,
Well,
she's the ink.
yeah, I was going to say. Whole interpretations there, buddy. All right, peeps. Well, we will see you in the next episode. We hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.